At first glance, if you're just looking at the watercolor, you might think something's wrong because it's pretty green. But when I zoom in on the snails, the whole story becomes a little different. When you look at this line on the shell, it's brand new growth, and it's clean, it's healthy, and it shows up fast after changing one plant, which tells me that the chemistry within this lake biome has shifted. The water went from crystal clear to green, but the conditions are improving despite how it looks. And in a sealed system like mine, a small change like that never stays small. This is all part of a larger project called miniBIOTA, which is my modular closed ecosystem made of multiple connected habitats. It's designed to naturally cycle with only energy as inputs, and because these biomes share air, water, and nutrients, when one biome changes, the effects ripple through the rest of the biosphere. Right now, I'm tracking chemistry changes in the lake biome, and the big question is whether the lake can move nutrients out of suspended algae and into long-term storage inside the tape grass. Because algae grabs nutrients fast, and it can swing hard and it can get unpredictable, especially if it grows too thick and starts blocking out light. It also produces oxygen during the day, but it can use up oxygen at night, which means algae blooms can crash animal populations if the system tips. What I'm looking for is those nutrients getting locked up in plant biomass instead, because plant growth is slower and steadier, and it builds physical structure that becomes habitat at the same time. If the tape grass can become the main plant here, the system should become more stable, and it should be able to support a more complex food web. And for me, the stress test for that is the ghost shrimp. Because on the other side of the system, in the seagrass meadow biome, I have daggerblade grass shrimps, Palamon pugio, and they've been thriving there for over 2 years. They look virtually identical, but here in the freshwater lake, I spent over 6 years trying to get Palamon polydosis to establish, and it has never worked out long term. There was always some piece of the puzzle missing, and my hope is that these new conditions, more edible plant detritus, more shelter, and a more diverse microcrustacean community will finally let them bridge that gap and fill their niche. So now I've introduced a new variable to this biome, which is these 11 wild ghost shrimp, and one of them is already carrying eggs. But there is one predator in here that decides whether this can ever become a self-sustaining shrimp population, and I'll get to that in a second. But what changed in this lake was the plant structure. Over a month ago, I removed creeping primrose willow, Ludwigia repens, because it was completely overwhelming the system and filling the entire water column with roots. Even with about 2 dozen crayfish feeding on it, it still choked out the water and it reduced the movement of oxygen. And my working theory is that those older pitted sections of the snail shells came from stressed chemistry near the substrate, where more carbon dioxide can collect and the water can get slightly more acidic over time. But by comparison, the tapegrass Vallisneria can take up space in a totally different way. It builds a much more vertical, open habitat, and even when it reaches peak density, the roots stay deep in the substrate, and the water column stays navigable. So the whole tank can start feeling like actual habitat again instead of being choked out by just one plant. And the shift goes deeper than structure. Vallisneria is one of the plants that can pull carbon from the water in the form of bicarbonates, and in a freshwater system, that ties directly into the carbonate chemistry that snails need to build their shells. So as pH and alkalinity stabilize, the snails can lay down solid shell again, and that recovery is already being recorded right now as clean new growth. At the same time, the green water is basically just energy being captured quickly in a fast burn form, and the real question is whether the grazers can scale up and convert it. People often suggest I add Daphnia to clear the water, but the reality is that they're already in here, and their population mostly depends on having enough shelter. I've even tried freshwater clams in the past because they're incredible filters, but for me that ends up locking energy into an organism that isn't reproducing or contributing to the food web at this scale. You could see the difference in the lakeshore biome where vegetation is dense and the Daphnia are big and abundant because they can actually avoid getting picked off. Whereas here in the lake, they mostly hide in the substrate because right now it's still too exposed for a real population to build up. So for me, the tape grass matters for more than just cleaning the water. If the tape grass turns nutrients into shelter, then grazers can scale up, then shrimp can finally hold, and that's the whole bet. As the plants lock more nutrients into their structure, it leaves less available for algae, and the shelter will finally give grazers a home. Then as their population grows, they become a more better food source for the larger animals in the system, which right now is dominated by the crayfish. But that balance is delicate because there's a real chance that as the crayfish population grows, their appetite could consume the grass right down to the substrate. I'm already seeing them constantly climbing these blades and eating the tips and targeting new sprouts as they appear, but there's also a clue that the grazing pressure is spreading out. I added one strapleaf Sagittaria, fully expecting it to get shredded, but it's actually pushing new growth, which suggests the crayfish have more options now, and they aren't locking into one specific plant. And that brings me back to the shrimp. When I added this group, I also added a little clump of macroalgae, and the crayfish reacted almost immediately. Two of them even fought over it, which almost never happens because the food options within the system are so well understood and so consistent. But when a concentrated new source drops in, the whole mood in the tank shifts and tempers flare up. And that shift doesn't stop with the crayfish, because right away the flagfish moved into hunting mode, and that there is the bottleneck for this project. Even if those adult shrimps can hold their own, recruitment, meaning those eggs turning into tiny shrimp that survive long enough to grow up, is a completely different question, because with the flagfish watching, it likely won't happen. And when you factor in that the shrimps themselves can also eat their young, it makes this a tough hurdle to clear. So for me, the flagfish might eventually need to move to one of my retirement tanks if we're going to give this generation a real chance to take hold. At this point, I'm reading the system purely by watching the organisms and tracking any trends that form. And even though the lake is green from suspended algae, I can still see through the water column, which means we're not anywhere near an algae crash. It's not soupy or opaque, and light is still getting through to the bottom, so the plants are still getting plenty of light. And with no new nutrients coming in, we shouldn't see the water getting any greener. We should notice it getting lighter as the tape grass continues to slowly grow in. So in the coming weeks, if the tape grass succeeds in locking down those nutrients, we should see the green water slowly ease as the plants gain biomass. The shrimp should settle into a consistent routine of grazing and hiding, and their population should at least hold. On the other hand, if the nutrients stay trapped in the algae swings and the crayfish overcome the tape grass, the water will enter an unstable phase. We'll likely see new pitting on the snail shells, and the shrimp would likely follow the same decline pattern they have in the past. So my check-ins will of course be daily. I'm watching behavior patterns, I'm watching how the algae is responding, and I'm counting populations to track what trends might be emerging. I'm watching to make sure the shrimp are still present and that they're moving and grazing like they should, because right now it's all about confirming that initial behavior and seeing if they're actually starting to settle in. The honest payoff right now is that the lake is still green, but it's not sliding out of control. Light is getting through, the snails are actively laying down clean new shell, and the tape grass is holding its ground, so the shrimp are the ultimate stress test here. The system will have to prove that the stability I'm reading so far in the shells is real, and that it can support the next layer of the food web. And so what I like about this phase is that it feels like the lake is finally reorganizing itself, rather than being stuck in a loop that it can't get out of. And while it isn't a sterile, manicured look, the way everything is interacting finally feels like it has a plan that's moving in the right direction. Now, I'm just watching to see if the tape grass thickens enough to give the Daphnia and the shrimp real refuge, and if it does, then hopefully the system will finally have what it needs to clear the water naturally and stabilize into a complex food web. Before I wrap this up, I want to give a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters, because every biome in this system is literally supported by you. Sponsors have their name 3D printed and placed right beneath the habitat they like most, and it's this support that allows me to fund the build of this project and make sure that every step is dedicated to the vision instead of budget constraints. So if you'd like to join this project and sponsor a biome of your own, the link to Patreon is just below.